one. I just knocked it on my camera. I'm picking it up. Sorry about that.
Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be something that I touched on in a previous video. It was during my Webkin Zums video. We were looking at some concept art and I said one of the designs reminded me of the Fijit Friends by Mattel. I said, do you guys remember these? And hoped someone would know what I was talking about, and boy did you guys. So that's what we're going to be talking about today because I've gotten multiple comments being like, you should talk about the Fijit Friends. Fijit Friends were basically a toy line aimed for girls created by Mattel, as I said, but also Radica Games and Girl Tech. They were these electronic, robotic, bug-looking creatures that first made their debut in February of 2011 at the New York Toy Fair. Now, I had to do some digging to figure out when they actually hit stores, but based on the footage I found of the Fijit Friends at the Toy Fair, it's safe to assume that they actually hit stores in July of 2011. They didn't debut at the Toy Fair in July 2011 like it incorrectly says when you Google them. In fact, I know they did because they had a special launch party event at Times Square, which was uploaded to their YouTube channel on July 27th, 2011. And let me just say it now, that's going to be a common theme throughout the rest of this video, unfortunately. You see, this toy line was extremely challenging to research because little to nothing has been documented or preserved online about them. Hence why I'm also starting this video like right when they launched and not the development of the Fijits, which would arguably be a lot more interesting. But all that's known is they had been in development since around 2008 pretty much. But when they did release, we had a total of 4 characters, which were named Willa, Serafina, Logan, and Sage. According to their backstory, the Fijits were originally science experiments. The shortened lore is 2 girls and their parents were scientists, and when the parents left out this like experimental goo, the girls ended up turning on some of their music one day, like really cranked it up loud, and it ended up awaking the goo, and thus the Fijit Friends were born. You can literally find this backstory on the Fijit Friends boxes, minus the stuff about the scientists and the sisters, so maybe that didn't make the final cut. I just included it because it is what the lady in the New York Toy Fair footage said the story was.
The story is really long, girls are going to get really involved with the story, but I'm going to shorten it down. There were 2 sisters and their parents were scientists. Their parents left out this experimental goo. Well, the girls cranked up their music one day and the music woke up this goo and out sprang our Fijit Friends.
But if you're a little confused about their origin story, we do have a visual for it. I was able to find an animated short that depicts the origin story, or like an animatic from the old Fijit Friends website, thanks to Music Box here on YouTube, who said they found it via the Wayback Machine. But what's notable about our main characters as well is they all have different personalities. Like Serafina is the girly girl of the group, while Logan is the sporty one. Gender roles back at it again! And Willa had a trend-setting personality that I'm not sure what that means in all honesty, and Sage had an adventurous personality. Anyway, by the backstory, you may have kind of gathered that part of the gimmick with these toys is that they were able to dance, specifically when you played music for them, or they actually had their own music that they could play for you as well, which included a fun rap.
Hey Willa, give me a rap. I love to dance and I move like Taffy. Gonna tell you a joke just to make you get laughing.
I don't know if that was exclusive to Willa because she was actually the most popular Fidget, but I just thought it was fun to know either way. But besides music, the main gimmick of these toys was obviously how the Fijit Friends were overall very interactive. I mean, they were advertised as a girl's interactive best friend with 150 different responses they could say and more than 30 keywords they could respond to. There was also a cool feature that went hand in hand with the Fijit Friends website where with a button on the back of your Fijit Friends head, it would go into something called sonic chirp mode. So if you went to the website and you played these chirp sounds to your Fidget, they would dance and like say different things. It would vary basically with each chirp sound that was played. They were like programmed to do something special. This was also shown and talked about within the New York Toy Fair footage, but speaking of that footage, I really want to backtrack to that for a bit because something interesting happens in this footage. The lady basically says that there's going to be an app that you can use hand in hand to interact with your Fidget, but more specifically, the sonic chirp is shown to being paired within that app versus like a website. I think honestly this would have made more sense than the website, and it would have been kind of revolutionary for its time, but it's really unclear why this app didn't come to fruition, or I guess I have to assume it didn't because, you know, I did some further digging and I was unable to find any evidence of an app for Fidget Friends existing outside of an article that, again, is talking about the prototypes that were shown at the toy fair. And I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen because something else that was also mentioned in this footage didn't come to fruition either, and that was potential webisodes being made for the Fidget Friends. When it comes to toys, especially growing up in the 2010s like I did, it was not uncommon for webisodes to be made about these characters on YouTube to further invest the audience in these characters. I mean, Fidget Friends are made by Mattel, so like how can I not use Monster High as an example? Obviously they have the whole movies they did for their marketing, but they started with small webisodes in a different animation style than the movies ended up being. Which, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think it's better than the final product of like the movie 3D animation. I've actually talked about this kind of concept before previously in my videos about Novi Stars, Bratzillas, and even lulaloopsey, which are all made by MGA Entertainment. Of course, what all those toys have in common is the fact that they are dolls, but with the Fidget Friends already being so interactive, I think it would have made a lot of sense to make them webisodes, and it would have had the same effect as like something like Monster High did with bringing in sales. Also, they don't specify that the webisodes would be on YouTube or anything, but that's just like what I assume since it's kind of typical practice for toys around this time. I do think they probably would have been linked to the app somehow though, but I don't think they would have been exclusive through the app. Or more likely the website with how things panned out. But you know, when I first found this out, I kind of wondered how they'd translate to something like that, but based on the animated origin story footage I was able to find, the Fidget's animation style is honestly adorable, and it's just really unfortunate that we got robbed of this, honestly. It's something I can see myself getting attached to, if that makes sense, and I didn't even own a Fidget Friend as a kid. I know, big shocker. Well, no, I said that in my video. I said I did. I literally forgot all about those. I never had one as a kid. I just constantly saw them on shelves or like saw them at friends' houses. Fidget Friends were more of like one of those toys in my childhood where you just couldn't escape hearing about them at the time with how revolutionary it was for its time. I mean, they were literally on Pop Tropica, for crying out loud.
How did you expect me not to know about them?
And I'm glad I'm not crazy because I was actually able to find proof that they did exist on Pop Tropica. It was like freshly after they launched, in fact. But back to myself, the retail price was also like $49, and I was usually spending like $20 to $30 at most for like toys when I was getting to buy toys, unless there was like some special occasion. Though I do think that's a fair price because it literally is a whole ass robot. But I also think the idea of like an interactive robot just kind of like scared me too, which is ironic considering like I know I owned a Furby at one point, who, speaking of, relaunched paired with an app literally a year after the release of Fidget Friends, or I think it was at least. So that truly was a missed opportunity. While talking about prototypes though, I want to mention I actually found an like earlier prototype commercial online when it seems like they weren't going to do the whole like characters and personalities thing. This prototype is a different color completely than any of our characters, and though the closest thing would be Seraphina, but she's a completely different shade of pink, while this is more of like magenta red. I will say the prototype does share a lot of similarities with Willa, who went on to, as I said, be the most popular character out of the Fidgets. From sharing the same antennas to a head shape, although somehow the ovaliness got even more oval. With mentioning Willa's popularity, I do have to speak my truth here. My bias is personally Sage. Like, can we get some commotion for Sage in the back? This is me if you even care, by the way. But yeah, this commercial is truly such a mystery though. Like, according to the uploader, it came from a random channel, not related to Mattel or Shoot the Moon, which helped develop and market the Fidget Friends. I took a brief look at their website, hoping just to find like more information on this toy line, and it turns out they've developed a ton of products, which include the Dance With Me lulaloopsey doll, which, you know, I just had to mention. Oh, and also Hatchimals, which makes so much sense. Enough about Shoot the Moon. They aren't even related to this commercial. It was just ironically this, like, finding this commercial where I found out that they had any involvement in this line whatsoever. Back to the commercial though. It's pretty mysterious, I can't lie. Even the logo is different in this commercial, with it just being Fidget, since there was obviously going to be one and not multiple, or like characters with personalities yet. Obviously when they made that decision, that's where Fijit Friends came into play. But I wanted to bring it up because I will be talking about lost media later in this video as a point, but it randomly surfaced without any affiliation to Mattel or Shoot the Moon. It just kind of reminds me how lost media sometimes just resurfaces out of the blue. It also makes me wonder like how far into the development process this was actually made. I mean, it had to be pretty far into it, but not too far because they changed pretty drastically, I would say. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but the prototype seems a lot less gendered. Like, the whole thing is, it's a girl's interactive best friend, but like, they just say your best friend in this version. Gotta say though, my favorite part has to be,
Ouchie, Mama, don't be so rough.
Shake Fidget for a surprise. Ouchie, Mama, don't be so rough.
I am living for the sassiness of this unnamed prototype. After I heard that part, it almost made it feel like this was a parody, but I know it's not a parody. Now, as I said earlier about Fijit Friends being revolutionary, this is quite literally the perfect segue to just talk about their success as a toy line. Fijit Friends were actually quite successful, going as far as winning the Girl Toy of the Year in 2012 at the 12th Annual Toy Year Awards, which is held at the American International Toy Fair in New York. But this success also led to the Fidget universe being expanded upon in 2012 with the Newbies line. How to best describe the Newbies is they are like if Fidget Friends had pets. They're like the LPS of the Fidget universe, okay? Newbies are basically pint-sized with ears that can actually flop forward, and why I make the pet comparison is because they have paws, of course. You could also squeeze their sides and they'd flop their ears and sing a song of their own, and then if you press their paws, they would make funny sounds. And of course, the Newbies could also interact with the original Fidget Friends as they were a companion toy to them after all. Though I will say they are a lot less robotic than any of the other lines Fidget Friends released, which I think is why, like, unlike the original line of Fidgets, there's quite an extensive list of Newbies you could collect that include Zia, Zinzi, Tika, Tina, Melody, Kenzie, Mila, and Kira. There were also specialty holiday releases, which is how I determined that they were actually released in 2012 at all, because the Christmas ones released at the end of the year, so they had to have already been released in some capacity before this. Anyway, the specialty Newbies include Purple Bat and Black Cat, which were for Halloween. I am immediately sold. As an avid holiday Beanie Boo fan, I am sold. But apparently they are rare now. This always happens to me. No trick-or-treat Tia for me, I guess. And then there were a red reindeer and green mistletoe, which were released for Christmas. And then lastly, there was a pink Easter bunny and a white Easter bunny, which were obviously for Easter. Kind of a random holiday selection, if you ask me. Like, we went from more of an inclusive holiday like Halloween to like 2 Christian holidays back to back. Not that Christmas is strictly a Christian holiday, because I know I celebrate and I'm not even religious. The other thing I noticed was the stickery faces. Now, the originals have like screens for faces, so I get why we couldn't do that here, but the lines after this have the same kind of more stickery face, especially like their most recent release, and I kind of dislike it a lot if I'm being honest. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Maybe I'm being too nitpicky, I have no idea. But next, after the Newbies, came the Yippits.
I gotta take a, okay. Let's fidget with Yippits.
Which I know I compared the Newbies to pets as well, but the Yippits are like canonically pets in the Fidget Friends universe, specifically dogs. The Yippits were also released in 2012, which I only found out because that's what the copyright said in their commercial. The timeline from here on out is just very iffy, so you're gonna have to bear with me. I'm pretty confident that I nailed it though. This is why documentation of kids' media and like products is so important. Anyway, the Yippits were essentially like dog-like creatures that make a yap or yip, should I say, or barking sounds. They also play games, dance, and perform different tricks depending on a list of claps. Basically, 1 clap will make your Yibbit sit, 2 claps will make your Yibbit spin in a circle, 3 claps will make your Yibbits sing and dance to the I Love to Dance to the Fidget song, 4 claps will make your Yibbits beg, and 5 claps will make your Yibbits do push-ups. And of course, they can also interact with the original Fidget Friends through sonic chirps. Since these are more robotic, once again, there is only like 4 Yibbits, which are named Skippa, Patter, Pluky, and Scooch. But don't complain yet, because lastly we have the Shimmies, which only include Spin Rose, Polka, and Rollina, so a very small release compared to the other lines. These were released at some point in the beginning of 2013 according to the Fijit Friends YouTube channel, and have 2 modes, which are Teach Me to Dance mode and Rock Out mode. In Teach Me How to Dance mode, you can pick 3 different songs and you are meant to press the belly button to the song's beat. If you fail, it will show you the original part of the song, and if you finish successfully, it will do the full dance, playing the full song. While in Rock Out mode, you can basically play a song and press their belly button, which will make the shimmy dance to the music. As well as those modes, they also have their own gimmicks though, since each of them are different. Unlike the original line where Sage, Willa, Logan, and Seraphina are basically carbon copies of each other, where Alina could twirl her ears, Spin Rose, you'll never guess, could spin around, and Polka could twist her head a full 360 degrees. I hope I mapped that right. I just wanted to sound professional, okay? Another cool thing about this line to note is they are the only part of the Fijit Friends universe that got turned into Happy Meal toys. Now, of course, they were much smaller versions than the originals, but you were still able to like wind them up and they would move, excluding one of them who had wheels instead, which I almost think is cooler than the rest. Once released, the toys could spin, twist, roll, run around, and vibrate, depending on the toy, of course, and the McDonald's Shimmies included Twango, Twistina, Poppy Seed, Pura, Pela, and Sambrella. Now, I was watching the commercial for these, and it's in that era of McDonald's where they were really pushing healthy eating, I think. And they did these animated segments, which were really nice in retrospect, but I remember hating them at the time. Especially that damn goat who was literally eating everything in sight. Luckily, this commercial didn't have the goat. It had Dina the dinosaur, who I don't really remember, to be honest. But I have to say, this jingle had no right being this catchy.
She soared like a star and shone through the night.
Anyway, the segment after that briefly shows Dina dancing with the shimmy, and the way that it fucking moves has no right being this funny.
Hey, Shimmy, let's get this dance party started.
Now we finally reached the end, and I know I said the disappearance of Novi stars was bizarre, but this one, it's a whole new level. Basically, the termination is straight up unknown, just like half the history of this toy line, am I right? The reason Fijit Friends discontinued is completely unknown. It's suspected by a lot of people that it was due to low sales, like with the other lines they introduced, not the original Fidgets. And also competition with Furby once they relaunched, paired with an app, as I mentioned before. I'm used to always having some sort of conclusion with these types of videos, but the truth is, I don't. This is truly why documenting children's media is so much more important than people realize, because if you aren't aware of the lost media community, a big chunk of things that get lost and people conduct like searches for are children's shows or things people remember seeing in their childhood and they want to revisit. Sometimes it's just an episode, or it can be a full season of a show where it's just completely lost forever until some random account online uploads them out of the blue. Like, do you ever wonder why kid shows are so commonly out of order on streaming services? They can't ever get it right. And you think the same thing wouldn't happen to something physical like this.
Right?
The research process of this video was honestly an emotional roller coaster because of the utter lack of information that there was. But as I fell deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, that made this topic even more important in my eyes to cover. The little information that there is doesn't always have a source to it, and you also are left to kind of connect the dots on your own to see if it could potentially be factual. Now, fandom is not a trustworthy source, not to say that there aren't well-researched fandom wikis, like the Sprout wiki that I used 2 videos ago for a lot of my research, but there's also wikis like Almost Naked Animals wiki. Almost Naked Animals. You can't run from your mistakes forever. And because of this, a lot of wikis have actually left fandom and started their own websites, which honestly makes a lot of sense. I was just watching a video about this the other day. Fandom literally edited the McDonald's wiki to promote the Grimace Shake because they were paid to, despite the fact that hours of someone's time, you know, trying to document and preserve information got deleted. I will link the video about fandom somewhere on the screen if you're interested to learn more about like why it's bad. But why I bring this up is because just like pretty much everything, there is a wiki for Fijit Friends, and in fact it's the first thing that comes up when you search why are Fijit Friends discontinued, and it reads the possible reason for termination of the franchise is the franchise's refund scandal in 2013. You Google Fijit Friends refund scandal and there is literally nothing that confirms it ever happened that pops up. And the rest of that same section of the wiki talks about the unreleased webisodes and provides a cast list along with a plot that was never confirmed or sourced. It also says Mattel said that they have no plans to release the series based on their frequently asked questions, which I cannot find and there's no proof of, unlike my Newbies Stars video where it actually was a customer service email that confirmed the discontinuation. It's definitely not unlikely, but there's just no proof that it happened. But since the release of the Shimmies in 2013, the Fijit Friends line has made no new releases and is inactive for unknown reasons. The website just looks like this now, and I'm honestly shocked it didn't redirect me to Mattel's website altogether, which, speaking of, you can still look at the original website using the Wayback Machine, but the earliest it actually shows is 2014. If you go to before that, it literally wouldn't load for me. I was also able to find a screen recording of the website from 2012, recorded with the Dandy Screencast-O-Matic. It's actually kind of funny how random kids on YouTube have helped avoid things like this from getting lost completely, like unintentionally. I also tried searching for the games that the Fijit Friends website used to have, but with the death of Flash, it should not be shocking that I couldn't find shit. Besides the brief footage in that screen recording, but also a video from someone named Noel, who apparently worked with Jet Morgan Games to do animation for a game called Friendship Circle. But that was the sad obscurity that the Fijit Friends have fallen into, and I hope you guys still enjoyed. Hopefully it wasn't too short. I've gotten a couple comments here and there since my Zums video to talk about the Fijit Friends, and I thought it would be very interesting to look into. And honestly, I have no regrets, even though this was like the most challenging script I have ever had to write. Usually there's too much information, but never will I be complaining about that ever again after this process. Let me know your Fijit Friends knowledge in the comments. If you have any more to offer, I would be very interested to learn. And if you guys had a Fijit Friend as a kid, which one was it? And I will see you guys in my very next video.
I'm a Fijit Friend, and I can't stand still. I'm your warmest pal, but I'm totally chill. I love to dance.